Kia ora. My name's Lisa Thompson and I'm a senior lecturer in crime science. I just want to spend the next few minutes telling you a little bit more about crime science and how you can learn more about it in the papers that we offer. So our starting point really in crime science is to consider the criminal justice system as a failed experiment to control crime. In some cases, it may punish people, but it doesn't serve as an effective deterrent. So, for example, this chart here beneath me, this shows the 24-month re-imprison rate of Australasian offenders released between 2013 and 2015. And we can see that, the rates of reoffending and re-imprisonment are really high across the board. And if we bear in mind that only a very small proportion of offenders go to prison, we can take from that the reoffending rates are likely much higher than this chart shows. And similarly, in Aotearoa, New Zealand, Māori have particularly been failed by the criminal justice system. Despite making up less than a fifth of the population in New Zealand, they comprise over half of all the people in prison. So you can see that there's a huge disparity there. So our mission very much is about aiming to reduce crime and increase security and safety of all citizens through multidisciplinary evidence-based research. And that's really kind of the crux of what we do. Firstly, we're multidisciplined because we cannot just solve the 21st century world's crime problems with just one discipline alone. So to take an example, cybercrime is one of the fastest growing crimes. You may have been affected by it yourself. And firstly, it's unlikely that we will ever identify the offenders, let alone process them through the criminal justice system. So, criminal justice system is completely redundant there. But second of all, to create effective solutions to prevent cybercrime, we need to start pooling the talents, the knowledge, the expertise from different disciplines. So in cybercrime, we often need computer scientists, but we also, working alongside them, we need behavioural psychologists as well, people who understand the types of behaviour that online criminals use. And also we draw from engineering a lot because they're very problem focused and they're about designing solutions. So we often work with engineers to think about how can we engineer a safer society, and you can do that in all sorts of ways depending on what the crime problem is. And we are very much evidence-based, and that is that we believe in using data, we believe in using looking for patterns and trends across data, and using that evidence to inform how we go about devising solutions and kind of remedies to crime. So ultimately, we are very unapologetic that we're very outcome focused. What we primarily care about is reducing crime, and as a natural consequence, reducing victimization, which can be a huge negative impact on people's quality of lives. And from 2021, students starting undergraduate degrees at the University of Waikato can take the minor in crime science alongside any other major. So, for example, a popular kind of combination is a psychology major and a crime science minor. And I just want to take this opportunity to let you know about a couple of the papers that we've got on offer in trimester A. So the first one is CRISI 101. This is very much our capstone paper where we introduce students to the three pillars of crime science. And they are the fact that we are all about reducing crime, the fact that we teach and we train students to think like scientists, and we bring disciplines together, like I previously said. And throughout that paper, we also weave in lots of discussions about the ethical and moral dilemmas associated with different technology that is used to reduce crime. The second year paper, CRISI 201, is known as Understanding the Crime Event. Now, it's been established through decades of research that crime is patterned in quite predictable ways. So it clusters in time and it clusters in space, and it clusters also according to other types of dimensions as well. It happens to be that if you can predict something, you can prevent it. So we're very much focused on patterns and looking at patterns in data. And so this paper very much introduces students to how to start exploring patterns in data, how to think about them. Students will get a hands-on experience about how to sort of, visualize crime data in crime mapping software, and also thinking about other types of patterns that can come out of data. And it's really, really interesting. And I'll be taking that paper. So if you're interested, just go and have a look a little bit more about it.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Ko Devon Polashek, tōko ingoa, ko ahau te kaiwhakahaere o te puna haumaru o te whare wānanga o Waikato. Hello, I'm Professor Devon Polashek, and I'm the Director of the New Zealand Institute of Security and Crime Science here at the University of Waikato. I really hope you're enjoying the virtual open day so far. I'm really excited to tell you about 2 new subjects that you can study at the university, and they are forensic psychology and crime science. Both of them are taught by staff in our institute, along with other academics across the university who are all experts in their fields. We're the only university in New Zealand to offer either of these 2 new subjects as minors, and from 2022, you can study them alongside other subjects you may be thinking about majoring in, such as psychology or social sciences, for instance, or computer science, perhaps. I'm going to tell you first about forensic psychology, and then my recently appointed colleague, Dr. Lisa Thompson, formerly from the Jill Dando Institute at University College London, where crime science was born, will tell you a bit about that. So, forensic psychology is the intersection between these 3 different systems. In fact, it's mostly about people and systems, which is quite in contrast to crime science, as you'll learn shortly. So we have psychology, the science of the mind and human behaviour, the legal system, which sets the terms for how we should behave, and particularly what will happen if we don't, and crime itself. Here are some typical forensic psychology questions that show how interesting this subject is. Why is it that some children end up in a life of crime and others don't? Do people really confess sometimes to things they haven't done? The answer to that is definitely yes, and the circumstances in which that happens are quite interesting. What is psychopathy? Something that fascinates a lot of people and that I personally know quite a lot about. Do we do profiling in New Zealand? I get asked that really often, and the answer is not really in the way that they do with the FBI and Mindhunter, for instance, or the way that it's portrayed on CSI and other crime shows. So you might have to go overseas if you were thinking about that as a career. What makes eyewitness evidence so inaccurate? Does it matter? Of course it does. What are the circumstances where it can be better or poorer? How do we know if someone was insane when they did their crime? How and when does rehabilitation help people? We know quite a lot about when it's effective and when it's not, and why that is. Why are more than half of our prisoners Māori? This is a very topical kind of topic at the moment. Is it simply that judges or the probation service are not as fair with them? Or is it much more elaborate than that, with complex causes coming in from multiple sources? And lastly here, does restorative justice work? So next year, we'll be offering these 2 papers, FPsych 101, Introduction to Forensic Psychology, which covers a wide range of topics, and then also FPsych 201 for people going into their 2nd year of study, which looks more specifically at psychology and crime. And then from 2023, we'll have a 3rd year paper as well in correctional psychological practice. So if you're starting university next year, by the time you get to your 3rd year of study, you'll be able to complete 60 points that form a subspecialty in forensic psychology in your degree, and one that will make you more employable if you're going on to work in the myriad places across the justice sector where these kinds of knowledge and skills are needed. I'd also just like to note that, as many of you will know, Māori in particular have often not been well heard or well served by the criminal justice system, and are therefore disproportionately caught up in many parts of that system. So all of these papers go some way to equipping you with an understanding of the issues, challenges and controversies there, both from Māori and non-Māori perspectives. And again, these things are increasingly important for employers. So what is a minor, you might be wondering? A minor is effectively 4 papers, which typically include 2 first-year papers and then a 2nd and a 3rd year paper. And I've spoken about 3 of them already. The other first-year paper that you would need to take if you were doing this as a minor can be from a number of different options from psychology and social sciences. So why do a minor in forensic psychology? Well, first off, it's just a really interesting topic. I feel very lucky to have had this topic as the centre of my career for all of it, because it's so fascinating, and I still think that today. So just doing a paper as an elective was a great idea, but also you can learn skills that are useful in other areas as well, and it will increase your employability right across the justice sector. Thank you.